Yeah, well, most people got their first introduction to who I am through an interview that I did on Tucker Carlson back in January. And it was related to my university president targeting conservatives on campus, effectively blaming Trump voters for the insurrection, quote unquote, on January 6th. And we already had a pretty toxic environment at my university. And, a lot of Trump voters were being compared to, just, everything that you can think of, racist, insurrectionists. And it was just a very unhealthy climate where I worked. And I was just sick of it. And I decided to do a video that I published publicly. And it felt a lot like a resignation video at the time. That went viral. I got on Tucker. And during that same video, I had mentioned that I had analyzed all of the lawsuits. And I was the first academic out there that made the claim that all of the cases that were dismissed were on legal process grounds. So there wasn't any meaningful opportunity to evaluate the evidence. And I did that by examining all the lawsuits. Tucker wasn't paying attention to that, but Steve Bannon was. And Steve called me up and asked me, did you really evaluate all the lawsuits and look at this? And I said, yeah. And he said, can I see your work? I'm like, sure. And so we've developed a friendship and a relationship over the past, 9 months. And it's led to me contributing from time to time on the War Room. I was invited to Michelle Bachmann's Regents Election Integrity Conference, and I introduced myself to a whole bunch of folks there. And more lately, I've been dealing with election audits. So we've created channels on Telegram, and we've got about 220,000 members that are there trying to get accountability. So that's probably where people have seen me. But my day-to-day life, I'm a law professor at New Mexico State University, at least until they get rid of me. And that might be very soon. We'll see. Before that, I was a trial prosecutor for about 10 years, did violent crimes, oversaw about 6 different law enforcement agencies, and really enjoyed that work, but it was dark and disgusting and all those things. Mm. And then husband, father, 3 kids. So that's the rough sketch.
You just in that piece, there's a few questions that I just thought of. You said Tucker kind of ignored that one piece of it. He's another person that I watch almost nightly because as far as mainstream media figures, I think he's the best out there. But you are right. He does ignore some issues that I wish he wouldn't. Why do you think he ignored that part of it? It seems as though he has kind of stayed away from the election audit stuff for the most part.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd agree with you that for what he does, he's probably the best at it. And so I think, you've got a spectrum of people on Fox News, Sean Hannity really only sticks with the red meat and potatoes. He does not get outside of a certain area. I Love America, Moms and Dads, very, very basic and generic in what he covers. Tucker will go a little further, at least further than most of the hosts there. But I think in part the story was a little bit more accessible, professor at a university that's controlled by Marxists stands up. So there's an easy segment there. And the video was 30 minutes. So it's not like we broke down the entire video. And the election issue was fairly new. I mean, it wasn't new for me, but it was we still hadn't gotten to the inauguration yet. Mm. My concern with Tucker, because, really, I don't want to be critical. I just want him to cast his spotlight on the election issues and get it to the normies and get it to the mainstream, is that there are journalists that I would refer to as kind of third railers. And they're really good on the 90 to 95% of the stuff they cover. But it tells you a lot about someone when they won't cover certain topics. And election fraud, Dominion, for whatever reason, Tucker stayed away from that. In fact, he was downright hostile to Sidney Powell, who I think is an absolute treasure and a hero, and history is going to bear that out. So, yeah, I mean, those are the things that I think about, just like most viewers. I wish he did more. More recently, he's been covering Georgia and some of the stuff that's going on there. He's barely covered Arizona, which is disappointing because we've got so much that's coming out of Maricopa County. But that's probably the best way that I can tell you. I don't know why. I just think he's got handlers at Fox that have probably told him to stay away from certain issues.